so much for this introduction and for the invitation. And thank you so much for the guests that are here in the room and also in the Zoom. So today I would like to talk a bit about my dissertation, which is about the right to food and community gardens from Berlin and Rio de Janeiro. So to give a brief context, the research is about the relation of right to food in community gardens in two main perspectives of the field of law and sociology. And to better understand what I'm talking about, it's important to mention the main categories of or what is the human right to food according to the United Nations treaties and conventions. So we are talking about food availability. Food must be available for people having access and freedom to choose where, when to plant, what to plant. And food also must be acceptable, which means that every age, every social group has different dietary needs. And according to every culture, this food must be acceptable. Food also must be physical and economical, accessible, which means accessing the supermarkets, street fairs in a reasonable distance from home, as well in a price that will be affordable and not compromise other human rights, like paying for the housing or access to leisure, and so on. And food also must be sustainable, which means in social, economical, and ecological perspectives. So this is important to understand in doing research and discuss and doing practices because food is a problem in different levels in different countries, including Brazil and in Germany. So these violations to the human right to food are happening in different places in different levels, and people are doing actions, research to mitigate, to try to transform these problems in good solutions and find alternatives, such as by community gardens. Community gardens have a universe of possibilities where to find them, where and what to produce, when the target could be kids in a school or people from the neighborhood. These gardens could be in a rooftop, on streets, public parks. So there's a huge universe of possibilities, and they can be found literally in everywhere, every place. And this is a really important topic because of the lack of space in urban areas to produce food. So from our community gardens, I choose two cities, Berlin and Rio de Janeiro. And there are multiple reasons regarding the law aspect, such as federal social constitutions, such as both signed the Milan Urban Food Pact, and so on. But it's would be curious to contrast. I'm not comparing. I'm not trying to check what's the most, what is the best case. But I'm doing contracts to know how is going this experience, what are the positive and negative outcomes, and what could be improved, and so on. So these two cities are totally different in demography, economy, in sun, water access, and so on. But both cities have in common the public policies for community gardens. In Berlin is the Gemeinschaftsgarten program, and in Rio, the Hortas Cariocas. So initially, on the one hand, we have Berlin mapping and organizing the community gardens since 2023. It doesn't mean that the gardens start in 2023, but the program was developed since 2020, 2019, and was launched in 2023 to organize this network of different gardens. And it's really interesting to investigate also Berlin because the city has a past, a tradition where urban agriculture was essential to fight food insecurity. And because of that, there are also laws related to urban garden, urban agriculture, the Kleingarten law, the allotment gardens law, to organize the system. So it's a pioneer city in the world to organize and legally organize these systems of urban agriculture. On the other hand, we have Rio de Janeiro since 2006 with this program, Hortas Cariocas, with gardens in poor areas, in schools, to promote food security, opportunities of jobs, and environmental protection of areas that vulnerable, such as we're going to see in the following pictures. And this program was elected by the United Nations in 2020 as a model for sustainable development. So after this context, what was the main discovery of the research? I can give, again, a brief introduction because this is a call, so you can read the complete dissertation and go deeper in the results. But regarding food availability, community gardens are transforming vacant lots in both cities in different ways. And we can see the example of Berlin. In the past, in Moritzplatz, we had this construction. It was a big store. It was bombed, destroyed, and became a vacant lot for many decades until around 2006, just after it, it started to be a community garden where people can enjoy, can learn, can rest, can meet, can socialize, and transform the area. On the other hand, in Rio de Janeiro, for example, we have this garden in Morro de São Carlos that was a dumping ground, and now it has a community garden offering fresh and food in a accessible way to the neighborhood. Regarding the second topic of the human right to food accessibility, we can inform that community gardens are providing food for free or for a symbolic price. And in the case, for example, of Hermannsdorf Prinzessinnengarten in Berlin, the food that's collected can be collected by the volunteers that are working in this project for free. And in the case of Rio de Janeiro, the city hall is promoting donations. Half of the production must be donated, and the other half can be sold to symbolic prices, a few cents of euro, for example, of dollar. So people can have access to organic and fresh food in places where there are food deserts, for example. Regarding food acceptability, one of the most interesting results, it doesn't matter if it's in Berlin or in Rio, in all the investigated gardens, it's possible to find this common result, agroecological food production. This means that all the gardens, there is this unwritten law that they respect, that they share, that they have this common sense to not use chemicals and artificial pesticides, and they have this care for the nature, for the animals, and regenerating the soil, and so on. And finally, regarding sustainability in economical and ecological and social perspectives, long-term perspectives, it was interesting to find this case of, again, Hermannsdorf Prinzessinnengarten in Berlin, where a former graveyard had some vacant lot. And then between a cooperation of gardeners and the church that was the owner of that is the owner of this territory, they separated some territory. So there are some community gardens. There are other initiatives like a coffee that they serve organic and vegetarian food, not only from the outcomes from the garden, but also they have a plant store, and then these places happens workshops so they can share knowledge, learn, and also socialize, and so on. So why is this relevant? We are talking about many reasons about human rights because they are a global guide for common future and responsibilities. And in the age now that a lot of people refuse the concept of human rights or they deny it, they don't know, they don't want to talk about it. It's important to regain this trust and this confidence about what human right is and why they are relevant. The research is also important because of resource management in a sustainable way. We are talking about commons resource point of view, the land, the knowledge, the soil, the water, the outcomes, the products, the solidarity, they all share resources. We are also talking about policies that can be tackling inequalities, protecting vulnerable people, including migration background, include more people in the neighborhood, and so on. We are talking about food security, as we saw in the beginning of the presentation. There are different violations, and it's not like the community gardens will solve the problem of food insecurity or that community garden is the only way, but it's a really important way that give you guides, give us guides to sustainable sociological transformation of food systems. And of course, there are resilience ways to climate change, to better urban systems for absorbing the water from the rain and diminishing the way from food to home. And considering the growing urban population, also a growing urban food production. But I would like to finish this presentation, call attention that despite all the benefits to society, to economy, to the ecological perspectives, community gardens also face many problems and many threats and violations. A few gardens that are investigated during the dissertation period, they are no longer existing. And a few have political pressure, for example, in this case of Berlin and Tempelhofer Feld, this former airport area, some political parties think that would be better to doing housing and so on. I'm not discussing that there is no need for housing in Berlin and so on, but there is some really strong consequences for these community gardens, and despite they all benefits. And in the case of Rio de Janeiro, again, despite all benefits, part of the gardens, in this case of the Horta of Manguinhos, it's been privately appropriated by criminal agents because they want to block the access of police inside the communities, so make it harder access. And then they are taking part of the gardens and destroying it for another use, like private appropriation of the public space. And then this research, this talk is a call for more investigations, more other talks about protection and promotion of community gardens. So thank you so much for your attention. And if you are curious to know about the complete version of the dissertation, here you can find it in English, is on ResearchGate. And soon, hopefully, by the end of this semester, a book will be available in the Rachel Costa Center and also online with a few more extra outcomes from the research. So, thank you so much. Muito obrigado.